I did everything right. That's the part that hurts the most. I am 27 years old. While my friends were blowing their paychecks on festivals and trips to Tulum, I was eating rice and beans. I drove a 10-year-old Toyota. I worked overtime every single week. I had a spreadsheet for my budget that tracked every cent. My goal was simple. I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to escape the cycle of renting and finally have something that was mine. Last week, I finally hit my magic number. I had saved $40,000 for a down payment. I found a perfect little starter home, a 2-bedroom bungalow with a porch. I made an offer, the seller accepted, and all I needed was the mortgage approval. I walked into the bank feeling like a king. I had a stable job, zero debt, or so I thought, and a hefty down payment. I sat down across from the loan officer, a nice older man named Mr. Jacobs. I handed him my pay stubs and my W-2s with a smile. "This all looks excellent, OP," Mr. Jacobs said, typing away on his keyboard. "You have a great income-to-debt ratio. Let me just pull your credit report to finalize the pre-approval rate." I sat back in the chair, visualizing where I would put my couch in the new living room. I was already planning the housewarming party. Then, the clicking of the keyboard stopped. The silence stretched for a long time. Too long. I looked up. Mr. Jacobs wasn't smiling anymore. He was squinting at the screen, clicking his mouse rapidly, then taking off his glasses to rub the bridge of his nose. He looked uncomfortable. "Is there a problem?" I asked, my smile faltering. Mr. Jacobs cleared his throat. "OP, are you aware of your current credit score?" "I haven't checked it in a few months," I admitted, "but it should be high 700s. I've never missed a payment on my car." Mr. Jacobs turned the monitor toward me. "Credit score, 412. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. "That's a glitch. That has to be a mistake. That's impossible." "It's not a glitch," Mr. Jacobs said softly. "OP, according to this report, you have over $65,000 in unsecured credit card debt. Most of it is in collections. You also have a defaulted personal loan from 3 years ago." The room started to spin. "What? I don't have credit cards. I have a debit card. I've never taken a loan." "Here," Mr. Jacobs said, printing out a stack of papers. He slid them across the desk. "Take a look." My hands were shaking as I picked up the paper. I scanned the list. Discover card, opened 2016. Balance, $12,400, charged off. Capital One, opened 2017. Balance, $8,000, past due. Best Buy store card, opened 2018. Balance, $4,500. Personal loan, Sophie, opened 2019. Amount, $15,000, defaulted. I was 18 years old in 2016. I was a freshman in college. "This isn't mine," I whispered. "Someone stole my identity. This is fraud." "It certainly looks like fraud," Mr. Jacobs agreed sympathetically. "But until this is resolved, I can't give you a mortgage. In fact, with this score, you wouldn't be approved for a toaster." I stared at the paper, trying to make sense of the nightmare. Then, my eyes caught the column labeled billing address. It wasn't my college dorm address. It wasn't my current apartment address. Every single card, every single loan, was registered to 42 Oakwood Lane. My stomach dropped so hard I felt like I was going to vomit right there on Mr. Jacobs' desk. 42 Oakwood Lane is my parents' house. I looked at the dates again. The first card was opened 2 days after my 18th birthday. The personal loan was taken out the week my dad lost his job at the factory. I sat there, the hum of the bank's air conditioner roaring in my ears. It wasn't a stranger in Russia. It wasn't a hacker. It was Mom and Dad. "I have to go," I managed to choke out. I grabbed the papers and walked out of the bank. I got into my 10-year-old Toyota, locked the doors, and screamed until my throat bled. I drove to my parents' house on autopilot. I don't remember the traffic. I don't remember the stoplights. All I remember is the heat of the steering wheel under my gripping hands and the crumpled credit report on the passenger seat. I parked in the driveway, the same driveway where I learned to ride a bike, and stormed to the front door. I found them in the living room. My dad was in his recliner, drinking a beer. My mom was folding laundry while watching a game show. It was such a peaceful, domestic scene. It made me sick. Up. Mom smiled when she saw me, though her smile faltered when she saw the look on my face. We didn't expect you today. Is everything okay? I didn't say a word. I threw the stack of papers onto the coffee table. They slid across the surface, knocking over a coaster. What is this? Dad asked, annoyed, muting the TV. That, I said, my voice shaking with rage, is the reason I can't buy a house. That is a list of $65,000 in debt. Debt that you racked up in my name. Dad picked up the papers. He glanced at them, then sighed. He didn't look shocked. He didn't look guilty. He looked like a kid who got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, mildly embarrassed, but not sorry. You went to the bank, Dad stated flatly. Yes, I went to the bank. I screamed. I found out that 2 days after I turned 18, you opened a credit card in my name. And then another. And another. You took out a $15,000 loan. We had to, Mom said softly, putting down a towel. She walked over and tried to touch my arm, but I recoiled. Honey, you remember when your father lost his job at the plant? We were drowning. We were going to lose the house. We needed groceries. We needed to keep the lights on. I pointed at the credit report. Best Buy. $4,000? Was that for groceries, Mom? Was the 60-inch 4K TV hanging on that wall right now necessary for survival? Mom looked away. We needed to keep up appearances. You know how the neighbors talk. And the vacation to Florida in 2019? I asked, pointing to another charge. The one you said Dad won in a raffle? You paid for that with my identity. It was a family trip. Dad snapped, slamming the papers down. You came with us. You enjoyed it. Stop acting like a victim. We used that money to give you a good life. You stole my future. I yelled. My credit score is 412. I can't rent an apartment. I can't get a car loan. I certainly can't get a mortgage. You ruined me. Dad stood up then, his face turning red. But it wasn't shame. It was anger. Watch your tone, boy, he growled. We raised you. We put clothes on your back. We fed you for 18 years. We paid for your braces. Do you know how much you cost us? That's what parents do. I argued. That doesn't give you the right to commit fraud. It's not fraud. Dad shouted. It's family resources. We are a unit. Your credit is our credit. We carried you when you were helpless, and now that you have good credit, it was your turn to help us. It's the least you could do after everything we sacrificed for you. I stared at them. They genuinely believed this. They believed that because they birthed me, I was their property. My social security number was just another asset in their portfolio. So, you're going to pay it off, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Right now. You're going to refinance this house, take out the equity, and pay off my debt. Mom laughed. A dry, bitter laugh. Refinance. OP, our credit is worse than yours. That's why we had to use yours in the first place. We can't pay that money back. We barely make the minimum payments on our own cards. So what am I supposed to do? I asked, tears finally spilling over. Just wait, Dad shrugged, sitting back down and picking up his beer. Pay it off slowly. You have a good job. Make the payments. In 7 or 10 years, it'll fall off your report. You're young. You don't need a house right now anyway. Stay in your apartment. It's fine. You want me to pay $65,000 for your TV and your vacations? Consider it rent, Dad said coldly. For the 18 years you lived here for free. I looked at my mother. She just nodded in agreement. We are family, OP, she said. You wouldn't turn your back on family over money, would you? I looked at the TV bought with my credit. I looked at the furniture bought with my credit. I looked at the parents who viewed me as a livestock animal to be harvested. You're right, I said quietly. I need to handle this. I picked up the credit report from the table. Good, Dad said, unmuting the TV. I knew you'd see reason. We are ordering pizza later if you want to stay. I didn't stay. I walked out the door with the evidence in my hand. They thought handling this meant I was going to pay the bill. They had no idea I was headed to the police station. The drive to the police station was short, but it felt like I was crossing a bridge I could never cross back. My hands were trembling on the steering wheel, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what I was about to do. I sat in the precinct parking lot for 20 minutes. I watched the sun go down. I thought about Christmas mornings. I thought about my dad teaching me to catch a baseball. Then I thought about the 412 credit score. I thought about the house I couldn't buy. I thought about my dad saying, "Consider it rent." They didn't see me as a son. They saw me as an appliance. And you don't owe loyalty to people who consume you. I walked inside. The lobby smelled like floor wax and old coffee. I walked up to the desk sergeant. "I need to report a crime," I said. "Identity theft. Fraud." The sergeant nodded and handed me a clipboard. "Fill this out. Do you know who the suspect is?" I hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Yes. My parents." The sergeant paused. He looked up at me, his eyes softening slightly. "Son, once you file this, it's out of your hands. The district attorney picks it up. If the amount is over a certain limit, it's a felony. Your parents could go to prison. Are you sure you want to do this?" "The amount is $65,000, I said. "And I want to buy a house someday. This is the only way." "Okay," he said. "Have a seat." I spent the next 2 hours with a detective. I handed over the credit report. I gave him the dates. I explained that I didn't live at the address where the cards were registered. By the time I left the station, I had a case number. That number was my golden ticket. The recovery. The next morning, I went to war for my financial life. I went to identitytheft.gov and filed an affidavit. I froze my credit with Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I sent certified letters to every single creditor: Discover, Capital One, Best Buy, Sophie. To whom it may concern, the account referenced below was opened fraudulently. Attached is the police report proving identity theft. Please remove this account from my credit file immediately. It wasn't instant. It was a grind. But legally, once I provided the police report, the banks had to investigate. And since the signatures didn't match and the IP addresses traced back to my parents' house, the debt began to vanish. One by one, the accounts were closed. The charged-off remarks were deleted. My score jumped from 412 to 550, then 680, then back to the 700s over the course of 6 months. The fallout. My parents didn't get away with it. 3 weeks after I filed the report, the police showed up at 42 Oakwood Lane. They didn't just knock. They executed a search warrant to seize computers and financial documents. My dad was arrested at work. My mom was arrested at the grocery store. They were charged with multiple counts of identity theft, wire fraud, and forgery. My phone exploded. My aunt called me screaming that I was a demon for putting my mother in handcuffs. My dad called me from jail, not to apologize, but to demand I pay his bail. "You ungrateful traitor," he screamed into the receiver before I hung up. "You ruined this family." I didn't ruin the family. They ruined it the day they signed my name on a credit card application in 2016. The end. It has been a year now. The legal case is still ongoing, but it looks like they are going to take a plea deal. They will have to sell their house, the house filled with things they bought with my money, to pay restitution and legal fees. They will likely serve probation, but their reputation is destroyed. I changed my phone number. I moved to a new apartment. And last week, I went back to the bank. I sat down with Mr. Jacobs again. He pulled up my credit report. He smiled. 740, he said. Excellent. I got the pre-approval letter. It's for a different house, in a different neighborhood, far away from Oakwood Lane. I lost my parents, yes, but I gained my freedom. And when I unlock the front door of my new home, I'll know that everything inside it, from the couch to the spoon in the drawer, belongs to me. And that peace, that's worth more than any credit score.